everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, as you can see here, I've put a new entry on my timeline. And this entry is Earth's core may have stopped spinning. This is back in 2009. So story just came out about the Earth's core. We're going to look at that. This comet that we've been watching, that's supposed to make its closest approach to Earth on February 1st. Something strange has happened with that. And then at the time that I'm recording this, which is 6:26 p.m. Central Time, there is an asteroid that's coming really, really close to Earth. That's zipping by right now, uh, basically over the southern part of South America. So, signs in the heavens, most likely. Uh, Even though Earth is here, I'm counting it because it has to do with the planet. So I think in terms of astronomy, even though it's geology, I'm just going to call it signs in the heavens. So let's get into it. So first, you had a couple people make me aware of this asteroid. George Brunt, he says asteroid traveling at 33,300 miles per hour, set to enter Earth's atmosphere this week. And then he puts 33,300 question mark. Now, I don't know. I don't know what he's referring to right there. He may be referring to secret combinations. If you've gone into the whole secret combination world, modern day Gadianton robbers, you know that there's groups out there. Well, one group in particular that really likes the number 33. Okay. But I'm not going to get into that because it's beyond the scope of this channel. But if you know, you know. If not, but essentially, I guess what he's saying here is like this group that likes to do a lot of things with numbers, especially 33. They have a lot of power, a lot of control. They like to kind of like tag certain things with their numbers. Is this like a situation where in this article it's actually not an accurate measurement, but rather a tag by this group? I don't know, but I'll point that out. Thank you, George. Okay, now sending me the same story, but a different link is Anonymous. Anonymous says, "Hi, Jared. You've probably already got some emails about this, but I couldn't help thinking of how these signs in the heavens keep happening. Apparently tonight, an asteroid, not too big, but about the size of a small bus, will pass closer to Earth than most satellites orbit, qualifying it as a near miss, and one of the closest asteroid passes ever observed. It was only discovered last week by a guy in Crimea. Caught my attention with all the stuff happening in that area right now. This right before the comet makes me wonder what else we'll see this year. Thanks for all you do." And then it's a BBC article. So let's take a look at this, shall we? Asteroid 2023 BU, space rock to pass closer than some satellites. And then here's a graphic to give you just a rough idea of how close satellites are to Earth in their orbit. So here's the blue line, which represents the satellites. And then this asteroid is coming closer to Earth than, I guess, some satellites. You can see it right here. Very interesting. It says you definitely shouldn't panic, but there is a biggish asteroid about to pass by Earth in the coming hours. About the size of a minibus, the space rock known as 2023 BU will whip over the southern tip of South America just after midnight GMT, which is Greenwich Mean Time. And let me refresh this. At the time that I'm recording this, it is 12:32 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So it's essentially happening right now. Or it may have already happened, I guess. Okay. And right now, just in case you're wondering, it's 6:32 p.m. Central Time in the U.S. With a closest expected approach of 3,600 kilometers or 2,200 miles, it counts as a close shave. This one was only picked up last week by amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov, who operates the Nauchny in Crimea, the peninsula that Russia seized from Ukraine in 2024. Just so we have a visual of that, Crimea. Let's take a look at the map. So here's Ukraine, right? And you see this odd little piece of land right here, which is almost an island, but it's a peninsula. Russia took this in 2014. Okay, they annexed it, and right now they're working on Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, Luhansk, and Donetsk. Okay, these ones right here. But they had already taken Crimea in 2014. So it is interesting that it happens to be someone from this place, that's involved in a war where no one knows how it's going to end and could potentially turn into World War III. We discussed the possibility in the last video that World War III has been going on since 9/11. Not a war that we would normally recognize, but a war of essentially causing revolutions and uprisings to take place around the world, achieving some of the same goals that you would try to achieve through a conventional war, but without actually having a conventional war. There was the Arab Spring. There have been revolutions in these former Soviet republics like Georgia and Ukraine. Uh, I did a video a while ago how last year in 2022, there was a partial lunar eclipse, or no, sorry, a partial solar eclipse over Russia right here. You might want to check that video out. In fact, let me pull it up so I don't forget it. I found it highly significant. Let's see, eclipse. Because, okay, see, eclipse over Russia today. Because um, I went through the history of eclipses in Russia, and it was rare. And it's happening during a year that Russia is invading Ukraine. Probably not a good sign. It's this right here. So I'll put that in the description below. I would encourage you to watch it. But now we have an amateur astronomer out of Crimea, which is now Russian occupied territory, that observes this asteroid of all places in the world. Okay, whatever. Um, okay, the chances of hitting a satellite are very, very small. So even though it's coming closer than most satellites and maybe in the path of some satellites, uh, chances of it hitting a satellite very, very small. Even if 2023 BU was on a direct collision course, it would struggle to do much damage. So that's a collision course with Earth. With an estimated size of 3.5 meters to 8.5 meters across, which is 11 and a half to 28 feet, the rock would likely disintegrate high in the atmosphere. It would, though, produce a spectacular fireball. For comparison, the famous Chelyabinsk meteor that entered Earth's atmosphere over southern Russia in 2013 was an object near 20 meters or 66 feet across. It produced a shockwave that shattered windows on the ground. Yes, and I've done a video about that too. Okay, that was no joke. Okay, the blast yield was equivalent to nuclear weapons. It was huge. It did hurt people. It damaged some buildings, but Chelyabinsk. Dang it, probably misspelled it. I've done a video about this. Chelyabinsk. Signs in the Heavens, the Chelyabinsk meteor. I would encourage you to watch that as well. That was definitely a sign. That was definitely a sign in the heavens. Um, there's this compilation right here that you can watch because it was very well documented. Because I guess in Russia, the way that car insurance works there, everybody has like these dash cams to like fight when they're fight with the insurance companies when there's an accident. The other guy's insurance company. So what you're seeing here, that's not the sun, that is the meteor. Okay, it was, as you can see, as bright as the sun. Okay, but there's all sorts of footage. The boom that it produced was terrifying, even just watching it on YouTube. And what's interesting about that, let's go to let's go on the timeline and go to 2013. Here we are. So here you go. On the 15th of February, 2013, you had the Chelyabinsk meteor explosion. Now, what's interesting about this is that it was a year later, in 2014, that Russia took Crimea. Okay. In fact, I should have that here. Yeah, here we go. The Crimea invasion annexation. I need to get an actual date for that. I don't know why I haven't done that. So a year later, Russia takes Crimea, right? Which was basically the beginning of sorts to what's happening right now in Ukraine. But then what I think is even more interesting, maybe, or equally, at least as equally interesting, is the war in Ukraine started in 2022 on February 24th. So the Chelyabinsk meteor, nine years earlier, uh, okay, February 24th, go back, what was it? Okay, February 24th. And this happened on February 15th. So almost exactly 9 years later is when Russia invades Ukraine. Isn't that kind of weird? Isn't that kind of weird that you have this huge meteor explosion? The next year, Russia takes Crimea, and then 9 years later, they invade Ukraine and go for four more provinces. And then on top of that, you have this eclipse. You can kind of see it here. Let me zoom in. You can see the thumbnail right here. You see how like it's just nice and red, just like squarely over Russia right there. Check out that video. I feel like there's a good handful of signs in the heavens that point directly to Russia, and maybe that's cause for concern. The signs that have to do with Russia. I mean, most likely, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this war escalates, gets out of control, and results in basically the final war, a third world war. I don't know. All we can do is just wait and see, I guess. Anyway, okay, so again, this was somewhere between 3.5 and 8.5 meters across. And then they have this chart right here. So an asteroid the size that's about 25 meters across would most likely result in an explosion in the sky, could cause injuries. And that is what happened with the Chelyabinsk meteor. It was only 20 meters, not a full 25 according to this chart, but it exploded in the sky. The explosion was terrifying. It did cause injuries. And yeah, okay, one that's 140 meters would create a 1 to 2 kilometer wide crater, possible mass casualties. A 1,000-meter meteor would be a 10-kilometer crater, global devastation, and then a 10,000 meter wide asteroid, 100-kilometer crater, mass extinctions. Yikes. Okay, so in terms of how close it's getting, it says here just 1% of the distance to the moon. That's so close. A celestial near miss. Quote, depending on what 2023 BU is composed of, it is unlikely to ever reach the Earth's surface, but instead burn up in the atmosphere as a brilliant fireball, brighter than a full moon. However, there are likely many asteroids out there that remain undiscovered that could penetrate the atmosphere and hit the surface to cause significant damage. Indeed, many scientists think we could be due for such an event. Well, let's hope not. And it looks like the person that was saying that was Professor Don Palaccio from the University of Warwick, UK. All right. So by this point, I'm sure the meteor has probably already gone by. Now it's 12:43 a.m. GMT. All right. So we just had that happen today. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should put that on this, just because it's not like necessarily record breaking, although it is rare that it happened. Um, no, yeah, maybe I will. You know what? Maybe I will. I'll do it after I'm done with this video. Okay, so we had that. Now let's talk about the comet. You'll remember that back in, let's see, it was in March of last year. Comet C 2002 or 2022 E3 ZTF was discovered. They say that it has a 50,000 year orbit, so it's definitely once in a lifetime event. Came closest to the sun on the 12th of January, and then it'll be closest to the Earth on February 1st. We've been wondering on this channel if this could be the sign of the Son of Man, Christ coming, because, I mean, the only reason why I would think that is because of what Joseph Smith said, that when the sign of the Son of Man shows up, it's going to start out small, and then it's going to gradually get bigger and bigger, and that those that are worldly, they're not going to see it as a sign. They're going to think that it's a comet or a planet or some other natural phenomena of some sort. So if there's a comet coming close to Earth, even though it looks and behaves like a comet, I think that we should probably pay attention to it, because who knows? Again, what if it keeps getting closer and closer to Earth? You know, what if it doesn't continue on its predicted trajectory? What if it comes closer and closer to Earth? And I proposed the scenario where maybe they would start saying, "Oh my gosh, it got caught in Earth's gravity, and now we have another moon. You know, now we have another little satellite, a natural satellite. We've never seen that happen before." I don't know. We'll just have to see. So we're looking at this, and something strange has happened with it. I found out about this from Ericksonian. He says, "Oh shoot." Oh, now he disappeared. There it is. I saw an article last night saying that the comet is behaving in a strange way and has developed a strange anti-tail pointing in the wrong direction. So that obviously that piqued my interest, right? And so I decided to see what's going on. This is the Science Times Comet C 2000. Sorry, I don't know why I'm doing that. C 2022 E3 ZTF briefly developed bizarre anti-tail that seems to break laws of physics. All right, so what's going on here? The comet is not just a once in a lifetime occurrence. Instead, it is a once in an epic extravaganza that was witnessed 50,000 years ago when Neanderthals, or Neanderthals, however you want to pronounce it, inhabited the Earth. Mysterious anti-tail. Comets typically only have two tails, wherein one is made from dust that the solar wind blows off from the comet, and one is made of gas from within the comet that sublimates or transitions straight from solid to gas. So instead of like going solid, liquid, gas, it just goes solid to gas, sublimation. But on January 21st, Ruslan Merzliakov in Denmark and Alessandro uh, Carozzi in Italy as well as other astrophotographers who snapped pictures of the green comet, noticed a third tail that was pointed towards the sun instead of away from it. And here it is here. I actually have it blown up here on Twitter. I'm not exactly sure because what they're talking about. It says a close-up view of Comet ZTF during 19th January 2023. Besides featuring a wonderful greenish comma and rare anti-tail, something unusual was happening with the long ion tail. What is called a disconnection event. Yeah, and that's another thing that happened. Okay, that's separate. So you have the anti-tail and then a separation event that happened with this comet. I'm assuming that this picture that they're calling this part right here the anti-tail. Okay, there is an explanation for it. Let's continue reading the article. According to spaceweather.com, the bizarre third tail is made up of the same components as the other tails of the comet, but is not a part of it. Rather, it is only an optical illusion caused by Earth as it moves through the orbital plane of Comet E3, ZTF. The twin tails of a comet are frequently visible because the dust tail reflects sunlight, while the gas within the other tail becomes ionized, which causes it to emit a faint glow. The discharge gas gradually cools and becomes undetectable, although the residual dust is left to drift in the wake of the comet's orbital plane or journey around the sun. Don't worry, we're getting to the explanation. I know this may not make sense. We're getting to it. As Earth passes across a comet's orbital plane, the sun re-illuminates a part of the dust and makes it look like a brilliant streak, which might appear to shoot out of the opposite direction of the other tails of the comet, depending on the space rock's trajectory and orientation. However, this is an optical illusion, as there is no additional tail. Okay, so that's one. We're going to come back to this. There's maybe a clearer explanation. Think of it this way. This is from Newsweek. This is how they explain it. Okay. A comet is heated by the radiation from the sun or any other star. The outer layer warms and starts to melt. Quote, this leaves it with lots of loose particles, both charged and neutral, that come away from it while it is moving. Ian Whitaker, a senior physics lecturer in physics at Nottingham Trent University in the UK, told Newsweek. Quote, continuing the quote, the neutral particles come off in a cone behind the comet as it moves. A bit like being behind a big truck on the motorway while it's raining. All that excess water hits whatever is directly behind it. So I have a visual. This is all I could find. I found this on pexels.com. So imagine you have a vehicle. It's going through the rain, and you know how there's like a cone of water essentially that trails it. Okay, so just like picture that. That's what he's talking about. Okay, so here's kind of a visual. Here's like another way that you can think of it. Okay, this water just kind of splashing back. Okay. He continued. If we go back to the analogy of the truck traveling on a lot of surface water, the spray comes out and mostly goes behind it, but in a slight cone shape. If we are now in front and look backward, we would not see the main spray hitting the car behind, but a slight amount either side of the truck where the edge of the cone is. So going back to this picture, essentially what's going on behind the car is like a big spray of water, roughly in the shape of a cone. But if you're looking at it from the front, if you didn't know any better, if you didn't have any life experience, you were just born yesterday, you would be like, whoa, this is like two different things, because you don't know anything. So this is essentially what's happening with the comet. Okay. That's what they're saying. So the apparent third comet tail is the same thing. We're seeing neutral particles flowing away from the comet in a cone, and from where we are on Earth, we just see both edges of this cone. So it looks like two tails when it is really one. Okay, let's go back to the other article, the Science Times. So other examples of comets with anti-tails have been cited, include Comet Koetek in 1973, Comet Hale-Bopp in 1997, and Comet Pan-STARRS in 2013. That means this is not the first time the tails of the green comet have caught the attention of scientists. The green comet was vividly visible in the night sky on January 12th as it approached its perihelion, or its closest point to the sun. At perihelion, the comet's thin atmosphere, or comma, shines brighter than usual. Now look at this. This is weird. On January 17th, okay, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know 17 comes up all the time, especially when it comes to President Nelson. But on January 17th, of all days, one of the comet's tails momentarily parted midstream when it was battered by a coronal mass ejection induced intense solar winds. So a coronal mass ejection, a CME, that's like basically a solar flare. Okay. For those who missed their chance this month, the comet will be visible to the naked eye again in late January and on February 1st as it approaches closely to the Earth. Okay. Let's see. Now, it did say somewhere, I thought, that this is rare to see the anti-tail. Oh, there it is. Okay. The unusually green-hued comet ZTF, also known as ZTF, whatever, developed a strange and rare tail yesterday. So even though there are those other comets like Hale-Bopp that develop the anti-tails, it's a rare event. And then what also I'm not an expert on comets, but it's kind of weird that you had a CME that caused this what do they call it? Where does it say it? On the comet's tails momentarily parted midstream? Well, I guess it doesn't say the name of that phenomenon. So anyway, so it's weird. This is a once in a lifetime comet. Okay, it's going through very interesting constellations, starting with Corona Borealis, which is Northern Crown, which you could easily associate that with Christ. Right, when he comes, he's going to be the king of the world, and he is the king anyway. Um, and then the next constellation that it went through was Boötes, which is a herdsman, right? There's different types of herdsmen, one of which is shepherds, right? So crown, shepherd, or herdsman, and then the last one is Draco, which is a dragon. We know that when Christ comes, he's going to defeat Satan and his powers and that he has on the earth right now, and he's going to be bound for 1,000 years. So it's weird. And then you have these two things happen with it where there's a rare anti-tail that's seen, even though it's like, oh, it's just an optical illusion. It doesn't mean that I mean, it's rare. It's still rare. It just happened that the Earth was where it was in relation to the comet, and we saw this phenomenon, right? And then you have this happen where the comet's tail was parted midstream. And so I don't know if like this is it right here. You see how this looks kind of like parted? I'm not exactly sure if that's what that's referring to. Let's read this again. A close-up view of Comet ZTF during 19th January 2023. Besides featuring a wonderful greenish comet and rare antitails, something unusual was happening with the long ion tail, what is called a disconnection event. Okay, there it is. Somebody did say it. A disconnection event. So I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Okay, now to finish this up, let's talk about the Earth's core. Okay, this article came out today. USA Today, did Earth's inner core stop spinning? New study finds it may soon start turning in reverse. Okay. Um, Planet Earth's inner core may have stopped during, sorry, Planet Earth's inner core may have stopped turning and could go in reverse, according to a study published this week. Researchers studied seismic waves from repeating earthquakes that have passed through the Earth's inner core over the last 6 decades to infer how fast the inner core is spinning. Jia Dongzong and Yi Yang of China's Peking University published Monday in the journal Nature Geoscience. The study's authors said they found that the inner core's rotation, quote, came to a near halt around 2009 and then turned in an opposite direction, end quote. So I have gone ahead and I've put that on my tracker. Okay, so I just have it at the beginning of the year of 2009. All right, this is, it's really weird. I didn't even know that that's something that could happen, but I guess you learn something new every day. And then continuing, quote, this globally consistent pattern suggests that the inner core rotation has recently paused. We show surprising observations that indicate the inner core has nearly ceased its rotation in the recent decade and may be experiencing a turning back, end quote. When you look at the decade between 1980 and 1990, Song said, you see clear change. But when you look at 2010 through 2020, you don't see much change. All right. There's a little bit more. Now, this is KXAN. Based on seismic observations from 1964 through today, the pair said in their paper that they believe that the inner core goes through, quote, an approximate 7-decade oscillation. Basically, the inner core slows and then spins in the opposite direction every 70 years. That's an interesting number, 70, right? It's interesting. It's an interesting number to Jews. It's an interesting number to us, right? We have the quorum of the 70, right? 70 is a number where you take 7, which is a number that represents perfection and completion. In the creation sense, the creation of the world. And then 10, which is also viewed as a number of perfection and completion in a mathematical sense. So you times the two together, you get 70. There's symbolism there. Okay. According to the research, this slowing and reversing is a natural part of the core's cycle. The slowing and reverse spin could help explain changes in sea level and the length of days every 70 or so years, according to the researchers. Now, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting that this has been discovered, that they're talking about it now. But what I thought was interesting was this decade right here from 2010 to 2020, because 70 years before that, one event that came to mind instantly when I saw that was here, let me zoom out. And maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but Israel became a nation in 1948, right? 1948. 70 years later brings you to what year? It brings you to 2018. And it's interesting because 2018 was President Nelson's first year as president of the church. Okay. So Israel turned 70 and President Nelson is the president of the church. Now, he became president in January of that year. But just a few months later, in May, that's when Israel turned 70, according to our calendar, the Gregorian calendar. So it also just so happens that this is the time frame, again, from 2010 to 2020, that this is happening, that Israel turns 70 and President Nelson becomes prophet. Now, I don't know, that could be a pretty loose connection. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of trying to think things over. Just 70 is a very interesting number. We've talked a lot about how it feels like the Earth is probably preparing itself to become a terrestrial world, return to its paradisiacal glory. As far as the research goes, I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe it does oscillate, and maybe it is every 70 years, or maybe not. I I don't know. I guess unless there's more research that kind of solidifies the idea that it's been going on beyond just the last 70 years, I guess I don't know for sure. But it's just, I don't know. It's another just weird thing to add to the list. And yeah, there certainly has been a lot of strange things happening in the heavens, especially since 2017. I think 2017 woke a lot of people up because of the eclipse and also the Revelation 12 sign that happened that year. But there's been so many other strange things going on, and I'm trying to list as many as I can find. Also in that year in 2017, we had Oumuamua, which was the first observed interstellar object to enter our solar system. Okay, it had strange characteristics. It accelerated as it left our solar system. I've done a video about that. The constellation it appeared to come from in the constellation, or at least the direction of the constellation that it went to, was interesting, and it felt like it was symbolic. Oumuamua means first in advance of. Okay, in Hawaiian, like scout, the first scout in advance of. The implication is like there's more coming, so that's kind of odd. Um, what else have we had? In 2019, we had the first observed rogue comet. That's a comet that, again, is from like outside um, the solar system. So this is now the second object from outside of our solar system that we've observed. Not to say that there haven't been others in the past. In 2019, the star Betelgeuse, and my understanding is that is how it's pronounced, and that it actually inspired the character Beetlejuice. But Beetlejuice is, I think it's an Arabic name. It's the name for the star in the Orion constellation that would be the right shoulder of Orion, or as we're looking at Orion, the shoulder to the left from our point of view. It dimmed for a few months, um, so that was an odd happening, and I have it right here from November 2019 until March 2020. Very strange. And it's interesting because March 2020, that's when the pandemic, um, that's when it hit the United States, essentially. Um, Shortly after that, the temples closed, the missionaries were called back, right? So, in fact, yeah, look at this, because they don't have like an exact date. It was like a gradual thing. It's not like there was really a hard date, or at least not one that I found. But as it starts to brighten back up and the dimming stops, missionaries called home, all temples closed. He had the earthquake that caused the angel Moroni to drop his trumpet from the Salt Lake Temple. Weird. And then we had Comet Neowise. This is the most recent comet that was visible with the naked eye. So I feel like these naked eye comets that we can actually see from Earth are probably signs, just because we can see them, they're intended for us to see. Um, yeah, and then later that year in April, well, just a month later, a mega flash world record longest single horizontal lightning flash of 477 miles. That is a really long thing of lightning. That is really long. And then just a couple months after that, the longest lightning flash at 17.102 seconds. That is really long for a bolt of lightning. We had the Halloween blue moon, the first since 1944 in 2020. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, um, closest since 1623 and closest visible since 1226. We had the George Floyd mural in Toledo that was struck by lightning in 2021. I don't know if you saw that, but you can look it up. That was in Toledo, Ohio. Okay, and then here we are in 2022. Comet E3 ZTF was discovered in March. There was a strange thing in June, on the 29th of June, the shortest rotation of the Earth on record. It was 1.59 milliseconds shorter than the typical 24 hours. Okay, we had the meteor that exploded over Utah, specifically over northern Utah, which would have included church headquarters. It was heard all the way from southern Idaho, all the way down to Provo. We had a double rainbow that appeared over Buckingham Palace before the death announcement of Queen Elizabeth. On Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, where they changed the date, as it was happening at sundown, okay, because that's when their day starts, Jupiter was the closest to Earth that it's been in 59 years, as though to highlight that this upcoming Hebrew year might be significant. And I think it is, because it's the year after Shemitah. And we just read a little while ago that the Jews, I guess there's a tradition that that would be a year that Mashiach or Messiah would make his appearance. We've also noted that it's the Sunday of years, and Christ was resurrected on a Sunday. And so it might be appropriate, if he's wanting to send a sign or a symbol to the Jews, that he would come the year after Shemitah to just reemphasize his resurrection and the purpose of his life and his mission. And then on the eve of Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles, there was the most powerful explosion ever seen, that we've ever recorded. It was in space. It was a gamma ray burst. It was the brightest explosion, the most powerful explosion ever, exactly 1 week after the Sunday sessions of General Conference. There was the star duo, which formed what looks like a fingerprint in space. It's like all these dust rings. Just look it up, or you can go back like a week or two ago. I did a video about it. And they counted at least 17 rings. Okay, here's the partial solar eclipse over Russia on the 25th of October. On November 8th, we had the first ever election day blood moon solar eclipse. Probably not a good sign, just like how those signs that have to do with Russia don't seem to have been good for Russia. Okay, on Christmas Day, we had 3 giant asteroids that passed the Earth. And then that evening at dusk, when Jews all around the world, well, okay, at dusk, they were lighting the last candle of the menorah. There's 8 candles, and they were lighting the 8th one at the same time that there was an 8-planet alignment that happened right then at dusk, because you can't see like Venus and Mercury later in the night. It has to be at dusk. So that's when it happened, and it was on Christmas. 2 signs on Christmas. Weird. Okay, and then I guess I will add this asteroid today. at least just to remember it. Maybe I'll delete it later on if it doesn't seem like it's really significant. I don't know. But a lot of really weird things. A lot of really weird and rare things have happened lately. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.